We have risen from the ashes to school the masses. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Scholars of Wrestling Show. I'm your man behind the microphone, Scholar Jeff. Elsewhere on the screen, probably to my left, taking up the entire left side of your screen, the one and only Mr. Scholar Tarek. Scholar Tarek, how are you doing this evening, sir?
Honestly, fool, I am just at that point where I'm just mellowed out. I am gonna be perfectly honest. I did not watch a single wrestling this week. I'm now just here to hang out with my fellow scholars and just watch the scholars of wrestling go on while I'm being pretty much the audience right now. I have when you really look at it, when you really look at how there's just I've done so much on the Scholars of Wrestling right already. It's now reached that point where I don't even care anymore about what happens. I don't care if I win the belt again. I don't care if I win the Scholars of Wrestling Party Champion again. I don't care if I'm Scholar of the Year. I don't care if I'm Scholars of Wrestling, the Scholar in the Bank. I don't care because it's just, once again, I've already done it. It's nothing new. It's just like, oh, good, another more to add to my accomplishments. So now, you know what? I'm going to just sit back now and just see you guys take your Scholars of Wrestling quote quote careers and expand yourselves to become the greater scholars that you are right now.
In other words, he lost, and now he's just going to sit.
Oh yeah,
The
Brian.
amount of times you said "I don't care" in that statement.
No, because I don't. I don't give.
Okay.
Right now,
Okay.
with stuff that's happening on like just backstage, like the backstage politics that's happening in the wrestling world right now, and just how everything is. In all honesty, there's really nothing to really draw me in. So at this point, I just now want to sit back and watch you eventually join my undisputed scholar ranks. See Jeff try and raise his ranks. See Charlie actually, raise something. Because, yeah, at this point, I'm not mad. I don't give a shit.
And you know what? Before we go any further with that, I must introduce the current Scholars of Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion, Scholar Brian. Scholar Brian, how are you doing this evening, sir? I believe you're maybe up there somewhere, if I'm getting the framing right.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you. All I am is a little screen, and you two have the big heads on mine. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lord the fact that I'm still the Scholars of Wrestling champion, because let's face it, okay, I didn't win. I am in the winner's circle, but I did. There was a tie.
With whom,
So,
I wonder? It's okay. You can say it. Who'd you tie with? Come on. Inquiring minds want to know.
in the words of Scholar Tarek, nobody gives a shit. That's it.
Hi.
That's it.
I'm nobody. Yes. For those keeping score at home who are unable to follow sarcasm and trash talk in a very Drax-like manner, there indeed was a tie for our prediction show for Clash of Champions last week between myself and Scholar Brian. But unfortunately for yours truly, Scholar Brian is, as the current defending champion, he does have champion's advantage. So the title did not change hands, and Brian is still the champion. But this close. This close. I got you sweating. I know I did.
No, you didn't. You want to know why?
Why is that, Scholar Brian?
Because once the Street Profits won, okay, Sami Zayn won, so I was already in the bag. You didn't have me sweating at all because I had already midway through, I knew I retained. So there was nothing you could do. There's no sweat there. But you know what? Just there, I enjoyed a lot. I enjoyed. I won't go that far because it had its moments. This was a pay-per-view that had its moments.
So would you say you really just enjoyed the first match and the last match?
I enjoyed the ambulance match too. Once I figured out that they were once I figured out what they were actually doing fully, then I enjoyed that. But everything else.
After reading what happened, because like I said, I didn't watch any wrestling this week, so now it's just me basically handing it over to you guys. I just have to wonder, do you feel like they should have, I guess you can say this is a Scholar's Quick Talk, but take it for what you will. Would you feel like they could have saved that angle of the quote quote legends coming back for revenge against Randy Orton? They could have saved that for when he faced Edge, since that was really their arc.
I don't think so, because I think the more because this was all going on, yeah, it was right after the Edge thing, but it was also at the start of the Drew McIntyre thing. So for me, okay, I don't think you should have done the angle until you were gonna kill off the Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre feud. I don't think it was a good idea to do it like in the middle. I think that you do it on the third match of a 3-match series. You don't do it in the middle, because then it's like,
this is a bookend story, and yet the feud is still continuing. Yeah,
it's the end of it's a legit full circle thing, but we're ending the full circle in the middle, and that doesn't make sense to me. But the match itself, once I figured out because when the Big Show came out, I was like, really? This is what we're doing? And then they went to the back, and Christian started hitting them, and I was like, oh, I get where this is going now. I get where it's going, and it's like, okay, I'm down with that. As long as it's not just the Big Show coming out and choke slamming Randy Orton and that's it. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good on that. I don't need that. That's it. But
yeah, this one was, to answer your question, Fool, I would have to agree with Brian on this one, but for a very different reason. I had completely forgotten that this, past legends coming back for revenge on Randy Orton. I had totally forgotten that would tied into the storyline with Drew McIntyre completely at all. So that by the time stuff started happening, people started showing up. I was like, wait, why is this happening? Like, why now? Like, it didn't seem like there was any sort of build or foreshadowing to it. Like, it just sort of caught me off guard.
Big Show and Christian were before, but Shawn Michaels is what started the Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton thing. So I'm like, oh, so
I think I would have been more okay with how it ended up if they actually built story to maybe have Randy Orton be, I kill your legend before you really begin. That ordeal. basically keep the legend killer angle going, because you didn't really get that in the build up for Clash of Champions. It was more which finishing move is doing the most damage, considering the last pay-per-view match they had. There was no finishers. There was no RKO. There was no Claymore, and they had the first stages of them building of them giving finishing moves throughout Raws. So the Legend Killer angle kind of just disappeared. And then you have Shawn Michaels no-selling Randy Orton's punt.
Yeah,
can't win them all, can you?
As I said, the only thing that maybe it's a nitpick, maybe it's like a big deal, but I'm like, this match is a feud ender. That's just going into it. I'm like, oh, okay, so we're moving on from Randy Orton now, because that's bringing it full circle. I mean, the Legend Killer has been vanquished by the legends he supposedly killed. So I'm like, and the person who was defending these legends who he had killed came out on top. Full circle. It's done. Why I get that you want to have a Hell in a Cell match. That for Hell in a Cell, that's fine, whatever. But I'm like, at that point, have the legends come back into Hell in a Cell, or whatever. Don't do this.
Honestly, I wouldn't have the legends come back at all. That's just my that's just my preference.
It's the Legend Killer kill him off. Yeah,
it's the deal for me where it's like, it's Vince McMahon. He's gonna do it anyway. But if you're gonna do it, you do it to kill off a feud. You don't do it in the middle, and keep it going. Because I'm like, Drew McIntyre's beat Randy Orton twice.
Yeah, and I think you really hit the nail on the head there, because really, I think you and I are coming at this from different angles, but I think we're still saying the same thing. No matter which way you look at this thing, and I think you were implying it too, Fool, that there is a definite pacing issue with this whole feud. Like, no matter how you slice it, the interference of the legend seems off. There's something wonky going on with the long-term booking of this feud. I like the matches that are coming of it, but you're absolutely right that there's something off about the pacing of this whole feud that isn't quite sitting right with me.
In all honesty, when it comes to pacing issues, you can look at Raw
in general.
I think that it's all over the place. Like, compared to SmackDown, where it actually, like, the difference between the shows is you could actually see that they're actually putting real thought into these feuds. When it comes to Raw's sake, they're just doing it week by week, with Vince doing what he's been doing for the past couple of years, just coming in, tearing up the scripts, and it's like, okay, I'll just do whatever the hell I want to do because
no chance.
Show. And that if there is, I guess it is now, pun intended, when you actually think, oh, they may have a chance that they actually may build story on something with these characters, but yeah, Vince just comes and no chance. So it's just another reason that, in my view, just think, why the hell bother being invested if there's no, what's the word?
Payoff?
Not even just really a payoff of just, what's the journey? What's the journey? Because there is no journey, because they make a new shit each week, hours before the show ends. So it's really frustrating. You could tell, again, like I said, I've been saying the past few weeks, you can tell when like certain storylines they're actually really paying attention to and actually giving time with it. I think and you see that more happening on SmackDown than over Raw. I mean, look at Roman Reigns. He's seriously the best thing. He's the best thing storyline going on in WWE.
Someone finally said it.
I can honestly
which
say,
I can't believe it.
I can honestly say, okay, I'm not even putting this in WWE. Okay, Roman Reigns, this character since he came back, might be my favorite thing in wrestling in general right now. Because
They finally, guess.
Well, he had to
'cause
twist their arm to do it.
here's the deal. Okay, if you're not watching and you don't have any context whatsoever, and you hear that Roman Reigns is calling himself the Tribal Chief, okay, you'd look at that and be like, oh, they gave him a stupid character again. It's just a Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns, doing weird, but you watch and just the family drama throughout the last month. Okay, it made me invested in a match where you knew going in who was gonna win. You know, it's hard to do that when you go in and you know that there's no shot that the challenger's winning. And to actually be invested in that match. But the story that they're telling with the Samoan family, and yes, we all know where this is leading. Okay. We all know where this is leading at WrestleMania next year. Okay, but if this is the start of the build to that, okay, it's gonna be the Anoa'i family, okay, is gonna have a very good fall and winter. Because just storytelling wise and the way that they put this match together, if the tag team matches on AEW hadn't happened, okay, this would be up there for me, match of the year candidate. Just putting everything together, and the character that Roman Reigns is doing right now, and COVID actually helps because you can hear him trash talking everybody. He's trash talking his own manager. Okay, he doesn't give a shit. He's the tribal chief. He runs this shit. And this is the Roman Reigns we should have had in 2014 when they split, when the Shield split. If this dude showed up, then we wouldn't have had any of the problems that Roman Reigns wouldn't have had any of the problems connecting with the fan base that he has, that it took him 5 years to get over. Okay, if this was the dude who showed up, this would have been awesome. And it's like it's 5 years too late.
I will say to what you just said, Brian, like just what if this was Roman Reigns immediately after breaking up the Shield? I don't fully necessarily agree with that. Like, it's actually really funny. If I ever looked at like the alternate history of the Shield breaking up, I just look at Adam Blampier's how he would have booked the Shield breaking up.
That was excellent.
That was like just brilliant storytelling, because he points out the fact that the one big factor of Roman Reigns not connecting with the crowd is that once Seth Rollins turned on Roman and Ambrose or Moxley, I'm trying to think of what's a good mixture of Dean Ambrose and John Moxley's name. Well, that's beside the point.
Dean Mox.
Dean Mox. What is that? What you said too, Brian? Dean Mox.
No, I said Mox Bros.
Mox Bros. Mox Bros. Actually, I think that one flows. But I like that one flows actually kind of
Mox Bros.
Mox Bros. Yeah. Is that once the Shield broke?
Got you to crack a smile.
That was good. That was good. Is that once the Shield broke up, Roman essentially just disappeared from that angle. and he was just immediately shot into the main event. And so when Adam Blunt he got booked it, he stayed with that and just slowly built him to be the top star instead of just immediately skyrocketing him to that. But we all knew that all Roman needed was a heel turn character change, because he was just basically stuck in a character that you could even tell that he was getting tired of. Hence the big thing, when he came back for this run, he's like, I'm going to be a heel. I'm going to be a heel, and eventually I will be the one that everyone loves to talk about. I'm going to be the storyline people thinking, I am solely invested in this. And now that now that we're here, there is a lot of time between now and Mania for the possible inevitable Rock versus Roman match, which stems from, okay, once he's done with the Usos, where does he go? And some people are looking at the Alexa Bliss staring at Roman with the title, thinking, okay, they're going to bring back The Fiend versus Roman soon. But because it's an angle where both men are in a position where they are the top, pun intended, they are the top dogs of WWE. The top three faces right now, Roman, it's hard to tell since he attacked Kevin Owens tonight, but Fiend, I guess he's just there.
Fiend is Fiend.
Fiend is just very okay when it comes to the most popular superstars, who are two of them are faces. One is the Fiend. Roman, Fiend, McIntyre. And shit, where
and also remember,
I just zoned out of where I was going with it.
It happens.
Oh, it's like the draft is coming, so the Fiend might go to.
So yeah, when it comes to that, I don't, with the Fiend and Roman Reigns being the top, being basically the top of the mountain, I don't want those two, because one, both men cannot afford to lose, and two, we already know what the outcome is going to be, because Vince McMahon is in love with Roman, and it's like this streak, Roman has to win, and I don't want it to be at the cost of the Fiend. The Fiend's already like got hurt so many times that to the point where I don't want it to be what Bray Wyatt was before he left. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to put this out here right now, because I'm honestly really surprised we've got like this whole Tale of Two Cities thing going on, because I'm just sort of reading your words and your language and your body language right now, Fool, that I can say for myself that I've been there before, where it almost seems like because of how much wrestling is out there right now, it sort of ebbs and flows. The fandom does, where sometimes you're just like really into it, like a really hot string of shows or a great storyline. And other times there can be like, it doesn't matter how good it is, how good or bad the show is, or you just hit that burnout of just like, I'm just not really feeling it right now. But then again, you also bring up a good line of what's the journey? Like what is keeping you locked in? What's hooking you right now? And I think that's really filling in the cracks here right now. But one thing I can say, regardless of any other factors, one of the most consistent things we have right now, here's a transition, is the NXT takeovers. Like, how many times have we sat here and we've said, okay, yeah, it's time for another takeover. It's going to be great, but we already knew that. It's what we've come to expect. So
it is what we come to expect, and I just wish it's just at a point where it's viewed at on the higher ups of WWE being so much more than how, because initially now, because of how the higher ups look at NXT, like they're booking it as the third brand, and most of us wrestling fans do look at it as the third brand. But because the higher ups are pretty much just viewing at it as still just the developmental, and they don't, like, Vince McMahon doesn't even follow NXT, and he just picks names because, hey, they're popular in NXT, so hopefully they'll bring ratings for my shows. So when you have that frame of mind, and then you just have the frame of mind of they're just, okay, we're putting NXT on Wednesdays, not because it's only because that's the night that they've been having it ever since they were on the network, but it's just now doing it just to get fans away from AEW, because they don't want to have all those fans watching AEW shows, and it's to the point where even there are some wrestling fans who are, as Daniel Bryan puts it, fickle. Whereas, like, they were maybe once upon a time, oh, NXT was just so great. Oh, I love it. Now with AEW, NXT, that crap? Please. To that point, when I think about, like, I love AEW, I love NXT, I guess I love SmackDown because at least SmackDown has been putting on actual good decent watchable shows, which I can't say the same for Raw. Again, like I think I said it last week, Raw, the past couple of Raws were just the reason why I was afraid with Bruce Pritchard being the head executive of both Raw and SmackDown, because that shit was just the stuff that I was afraid was going to happen. Now, I guess now, hopefully the draft and throwing new faces on different shows will help. But Raw is going back to what we discussed before, Raw is the perfect example where there have been matches where, okay, this should be the feud ender. Okay, it happened. The feud's over. No. Why? The feud's still going. Why? Why is the feud going? Now, to the point where we're watching multiple matches with the same people, and it's like, nothing's really different. Why should I even care? Because most of the time it's the same result. So what's the point of going through a journey which the results have always been the same, even not on pay-per-views, even on Raws themselves? So why bother getting invested in any of these talents, at least when it comes to the mid-card to lower card? If WWE, the thing is, we know the creative of WWE can put on great content. I mean, like I said, look what they're doing on SmackDown with Roman, with Alexa Bliss and The Fiend, with let's see, what other star? The
Lacey
Intercontinental
Evans.
Championship is actually a very entertaining story. And then you have Raw, which you have really just two things, at least in my view: Drew McIntyre and the Hurt Business. That's it.
Well, you're not wrong. Honestly, especially about Raw, Drew McIntyre, I thought, has been killing it week after week. And the Hurt Business is just straight up gradually getting better as time goes on. So
they just need to get away from Apollo Crews. They need to move on, which is basically what we're talking about, because the entire pay-per-view, most of it, there were so many rematches on this thing, matches we'd seen before, even on the pre-show, because we'd seen Lucha House Party versus Nakamura and Cesaro so many times that, yes, Cesaro's on the screen, but that's Cesaro and Nakamura are on my TV screen, but that's the only reason that I give even the tiniest fuck at all. But and you got the Street Profits versus Andrade and Apollo and
Garza.
Angel Garza for the 9 millionth time, and the shit show that ending was. Even though I understand what they were, what the ref thought he had to do there, you should let the wrestlers that are actually involved know what's going on. So you don't have the person getting the pin. You don't have the person winning and looking furious that he won. That's it.
Making your talent upset. Yeah, that's something WWE's not keen on doing.
Yeah, and the whole and Bobby Lashley versus Apollo Crews. move these storylines along. Okay, Bobby Lashley versus Apollo Crews ended last month. Andrade and Angel Garza versus the Street Profits ended after the Street Profits got their payback for the poison. Okay, that's it. It's like Cesaro and Nakamura versus Lucha House Party should have never even started, and yet we've got 2,000 matches of these guys. So that's the problem with the WWE. Their storylines are taking too long.
It's like we know that if WWE was able to, like, we know they're capable of actually putting on great content. Again, the certain stuff on SmackDown and a couple of things on Raw. If they did that if they actually gave a shit with the rest of the card and the rest of the talent that they could build up to inevitably be future stars, then we wouldn't really be having such a problem where I'm looking at wrestling shows and I'm just thinking, okay, some stuff is good. Why should I care?
Well, I'll tell you what. I do feel like, yeah.
I will say, I will give it to AEW. They're doing so much better at getting me invested in the stories. Like, because they're doing exactly what I'm talking about. Every single storyline feels like a big deal. All the mid-card stuff, all the lower card. Hell, one of their lower card feuds main evented AEW Dynamite Kick with the parking lot brawl. And that was one of the best matches of the year. And that was one of their lower ranked matches. So, yeah. They know how to get their roster over. They're not just just a handful of stars. They're a roster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as AEW has been going on, I think we've absolutely seen the holes being patched up in all these areas where WWE as a company could absolutely improve. But in the meantime, thankfully, NXT just keeps chugging along, producing good stuff after good stuff after good stuff.
Showing Triple H could actually, help bring this company back to a point where it's not a laughing stock in the rest of the world, not just the hardcore wrestling fans.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and every takeover, even though this is going to make 31 of them now, there's still always something there. So there's the transition. What do we have this time for the 31st takeover? Let's dive right in and find out. This is NXT Takeover 31, kicking things off for the Cruiserweight Championship. We've got Santos versus Isaiah Swerve Scott. Champion's advantage. Brian, you pick first.
I like Isaiah Swerve Scott. I do. But I think that Escobar has more going on, and there's more stories to be told with the players that he's got around him. Like, I think Escobar wins via shenanigans because of his crew, his posse. Okay, and I think as much as I enjoy Isaiah Swerve Scott, I think there's more I think there's more legs to be had in this title reign. So I'm gonna go with Escobar to retain.
Fool, who you got for this one? Escobar versus Scott.
I'm also gonna go with Santos Escobar. I just feel like he has more going for him storyline wise. Like, even just position wise.
I'll tell you what, you're not wrong. But me personally, I feel like I've got this weird feeling like they keep wanting to turn Swerve into something. They obviously see some value in him. But it's just, I feel like whenever I see him enter a big match, the question I always have is this the time? Is this the time where they actually give him something or let him loose, or just, is this the time when they pull the trigger on Swerve? And I think there's a strong chance that that night could be the night. So I'm going with Isaiah Scott on this one for no definitive reason other than I think I feel like this could go either way. This is one of those either way kind of matches.
It could swerve in either direction.
But then again, if you see a swerve coming, is it even a swerve to begin with? Galaxy Brain. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. Anyway, moving on to the next match on the card, we've got Kushida versus Velveteen Dream. This one's a bit of a weird one. Fool, you're up next. Who do you got?
The last time I predicted Velveteen Dream, it backfired on me big time. So I'm going to go with Kushida. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of the Dream. So.
And meanwhile, Kushida's been rocking the Back to the Future gimmick for years. What's not to like?
It's like, that doesn't add to anything.
That doesn't add to anything regarding my opinion at all.
Check out the guy's life preserver. Dork thinks he's going to drown.
Give me a milk. Chocolate. I'm going to go with Kushida too. I like chocolate milk. Brian, who do you got?
Yeah, I like the mean streak that they're starting to show for Kushida. And just every time Velveteen Dream is on TV, it's just awkward for me now. So it's like I don't want him to win. I don't want him on my TV. And with all the injury issues that Kushida has had, I feel like it's time to shit or get off the pot, basically. So this is the beginning of them building Kushida up, and I feel like this is a win over the Team Dream. Maybe have him lock in that hold a little long in the tooth like he's been doing, and have him put Velveteen Dream out of action for a little while so he can take care of his bullshit.
It's Kushida's density.
Have Kushida be the one to take him out. That would do wonders for his character and push him up the card. So yeah, I'm got clean sweep. Kushida win.
All right, first one of the night. Clean sweep. Kushida. Next one, we've got for the North American Championship, Damien Priest versus Johnny Gargano. Boy, this one.
I don't really think it's as hard as you're making it out.
Okay, in that case, I'll go Damien Priest just because. Yeah, I was going back and forth for a moment, but I'm not really feeling Johnny Gargano the more I think about it. It's not unheard of, but it's not nearly enough for me to think that it could go the other way as much as Swerve got from me earlier in the night. So yeah, Damien Priest wins for me. Brian, your turn. Who do you got?
I'm going for a retain because, first of all, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is this Priest's first title defense?
It very well could be.
I think it is.
Because I think he won it at the last takeover. So they're not gonna make Priest a transitional champion. That's not the move here. And I just feel that Johnny Gargano has fallen off a bit, in my estimation. Like, I feel like he's a guy that they're gonna use to get other people over now. And it's also the fact that they've been so cocky, they've been so overbearing during this whole time. It's a typical we're gonna talk so much shit and you're going to, and I'm not gonna say manhandle, but Damian Priest is gonna win this one, and it's like didn't even have to think twice about it. I just don't. It's his first title defense. They're not gonna make Damian Priest a transitional champion. That's not the move for a guy of that caliber. And I got to admit, this isn't. I'm not saying this for the other person, but I'm kind of done with Johnny Gargano. It's like he's not really doing it for me anymore.
Fool, or do we have an accord? Or are you splitting from the pack?
We have an accord. The one big factor that I was really looking into this particular match is that I look at loser gets drafted. And at this point, I don't see Johnny Gargano staying on the NXT roster anytime soon. I actually think he's gonna be drafted to either Raw or SmackDown. I could see him even go. I could see him possibly going, being just thrown into the Intercontinental Championship feud, like being a new contender for that one. But yeah, like I was thinking, do I want to see the power couple win the gold tonight or win the gold? But I
did think of that, but I'm like,
And a part of it actually does work when you really think about it, because they're just a good team together. But yeah, I actually think Johnny Gargano is going to be drafted, and this is just basically going to be his send-off match.
Interesting.
That's how I look at it. Like I said, I could be 100% wrong, and he will just basically go back. I just look at when he's in NXT, I just see him in a void. Void.
Which is a problem because he's specifically stated that he never wants to leave NXT.
Well, I know he said that, but it may not be his call.
Yeah, so it's like
Well, I'll tell you what. Whatever his future is, I'm glad we have it on my run sheet as the next match. We've got for the women's NXT championship, we've got Ioshirai versus Kansas Larae. Brian, I believe it's your pick. Tell us how it all goes down.
This one's really simple. Candice LeRae touched the title and was holding it over her head on the last show. That means Io Shirai is retaining. Simple. Just I also feel like this is one where the power couple is just talk so much shit and then doesn't carry through when it counts. I can see that being the storyline going forward for them.
Fool, who do you got between Io or Candice?
My heart says Candice, but my head says Io.
What are you following?
Huh?
So what are you following?
I'm gonna.
Inquiring minds want to know.
I'm gonna go with Io.
You're going with Io?
Oh, Io, Io.
I am completely miswriting Io's name on here. But you know what? It doesn't matter. So you know what? I'm not even going to write her name again. I'm going to put down Candice LeRae. I've got a crazy feeling about this one. More so than Isaiah. Swerve Scotty Boy, whatever. I've got to think. Not only do I think that she is going to win, and they'll continue with that subservient husband thing with Johnny Gargano, but I think since we've got the draft, I think they're gonna call up Io. They're gonna call up Io to the main roster to inject some new life into the show.
That's a good.
I think it's gonna happen, but mostly I just want to see Ioshirai fight Lacey Evans.
Of course you do.
I mean, the entertainment value is there. It's there.
Lacey's push is done.
Lacey's first push is done.
Her relevance is done.
Anyway, moving on to the next game, or the main event rather, we've got Finn Balor versus Kyle O'Reilly for the NXT Championship. Fool, take us home. Let's totally forget about that last thing you said. Who do you got for winning the NXT Championship? Kyle O'Reilly or Finn Balor?
All I want to say, I really, really want to say, oh, O'Reilly, your new champ, but I just can't. I'm gonna stick with Finn Balor. It's kind of what Brian said about Priest. This is the same thing with him. Is this his first title defense?
Yes.
Like on a paper, at least a pay-per-view, or maybe in general.
It's his first title defense.
So yeah, I don't see Kyle O'Reilly winning this one. I want Finn Balor to hold that title as long as humanly possible, because I feel like once Finn Balor loses it, he'll just be pushed to where he was at when he came back from his injury on the main roster. So have him on top of one brand is good enough for me.
All right. For this one, yeah, I'm going to have to go with Finn Balor too. As much as Kyle O'Reilly winning could be fantastic, my gut is telling me that this is probably going to be the testing of the waters for Kyle O'Reilly. If the match goes over very well, which a lot of people are anticipating that it's going to be match of the night, if this goes over as well as a lot of people are hoping, then who knows? Maybe this feud will continue, and maybe Kyle O'Reilly could have a shot at winning it at the next takeover around not SummerSlam, Survivor Series time. Who knows? I've got all the faith in the world in these guys and in this match, but in terms of the winner, I think it's pretty much a lock in my eyes, at least, that Finn Balor's going to take this one. Brian, do we have an accord?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is a lock. This is going to be the O'Reilly gets so close,
and yet so far.
But Finn Balor's going to pull it out in the end, but this will be like Kyle O'Reilly will be a main event competitor after this. So this is the testing of the waters. This is give him the. I'm not gonna go as far as to say this is the Jeff Hardy Undertaker type match to see if the person can hang, because everybody knows that Kyle O'Reilly could hang, but it's just to see what he can do in a main event position. But so he's gonna get the so close, but just couldn't do it. And Finn Balor will retain.
And there you have it.
All right. Yeah, there you have it. 2 match difference between the two of you. Brian, you said before we started recording, seeing how you want to see how these predictions go if you want to put the title on the line against the Fool. So now that we have the card set, what does the champion say to Scholar Jeff?
Drum roll?
No.
Okay.
Ah.
All right. Well, there you have it.
You want to know It's NXT. It's a takeover. It's.
You see, now that is what I was talking about earlier.
AEW, WWE, and
Okay. All
no,
right. All right.
and every time
Pickle.
that I put now obviously Tarek's not involved in this one, but every time the title gets put up on an NXT pay-per-view, Scarlett Tarek bitches about it off air. So no, not gonna do it. Gonna hold off until probably Hell in a Cell.
Wait, what? What do I do?
You don't like it when the title's put on the line during an NXT show because you're not good at NXT predictions.
That only really counted when Charlie threw that SummerSlam pitch.
A little behind the scenes kerfluffle in the Scholars of Wrestling household.
Because if I didn't agree to it, Goldie would be mine.
Okay. Just remember, every family fights. It's okay. But anyway, those are our predictions for NXT Takeover 31. But now is the time in the show where we turn it over to you, our listening audience. What do you think is going to happen at the next pay-per-view at NXT Takeover?
Sound like you were going to say payback.
Absolutely not. I'm not that bad.
Don't do that again.
I'm not doing the thing.
Back to that.
I'm not doing the thing. Who do you think is going to walk away with the gold? And more importantly, what is your journey? What is the thing that's keeping you interested in wrestling lately? Whatever it is, we want to hear from you. So wherever you are all across the internet, YouTube comments, Facebook posts, Twitter machines, whatever you are, drop us a line. Especially on the Twitter machines, because we like those. Starting with @ScholarsOW for all the latest episode uploads every single week. But then again, you can also join us on our personal Twitter accounts and join in the conversation yourself. Fool, where can they reach you?
You can reach me at the Avataric.
Scholar Brian, where can they reach you?
You can find me golluming hardcore at Atomic Beanpole.
As you do. And you can reach me at I'm Robbie Rage. Join the conversation. Join the conversation. Gallop along with us all across the interwebs, all across to NXT TakeOver, because I'm great at transitions. And you know who we are. We are the Scholars of Wrestling, and you have just been schooled. You're welcome. See you all at another fine takeover.